one of the biggest needs of a child is to feel emotionally safe. That emotional security, even as a male.
Because kids put their parents' pinnacle. They're the top. They want to be who they are.
100%.
Yeah.
They start doing what you're doing, right? My stepdad's family, their side of the family is, I've always felt safe. They're non-judgmental. They're comforting. They're just good human beings. They brought a lot to my life that was beautiful, right? Because my home was not emotionally safe. It's never been. Now that's decisions of my mom to lead her life in a way that was nothing against her and where she's at in her life, but that just, as you start getting older, and man, how that weight's got to be heavy. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 30 of Never in Reverse. I'm your host, Jeremy Axel, co-host D-Man, Doug Cox.
Welcome back.
That's right. What's up, Doug?
That's right. You, nada.
Doug,
Plugging away.
New episode 30, guys. Hit 30. Nice job. Congrats to Doug.
3-0.
Way to see this through, guys. It's a big accomplishment, to be honest with you. I think the general rule of thumb, I think most podcasts make it, they said a few.
A handful, I think.
It's hard.
It is hard. But
It's awesome.
I don't know. It's been enjoyable.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've learned a lot. Doug, who's the last shout out? Do you got any more?
Last shout out. I don't. Moment.
No more.
I don't. But
Let's just drop that. Why don't we do
beautiful.
all of them in one? Connect them all.
Oh yeah, Joe
Rogan,
Steve Vernell, Cam Hayes. Sorry,
Cam Hayes. Last episode we didn't call you out, right?
Shoot, wasn't expecting.
I botched it.
I totally. Yeah, whiffed it.
Oregonian boy, and you botched it.
I know. He's an Oregon guy too. Yeah.
You need to take him on a hunt somewhere.
No, he needs to take me on a hunt somewhere.
You need to take him down to Texas to your old boys.
Yeah. There's maybe some opportunity down there, but
absolutely.
No, I'd be a gas.
No, welcome back, everyone. Though, thanks for joining us on this journey. We appreciate you guys following us. Again, if you guys like what you hear, join us on typically YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok.
About anywhere you can hear you guys ramble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we now have a website. So
yeah.
But no, guys, we appreciate you guys on this journey for us, and comment, it's all open, guys. We're an open book. We want the real stories. We want people that have faced things that we're maybe bringing up in topic that aren't talked about because we're told not to talk about these things. So, which is going to lead us into one that's going to be near and dear to our heart, Mr. Cox.
Both of us. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's pull the Band-Aids off.
Yeah.
Today's topic, guys, is going to be growing up in a family with divorced parents. As you can see, I'm already getting fidgety with my hands.
Yeah.
Broken
home.
Yeah. Broken home, guys. Man, wearing a broken home as an adult, it does a lot of complex things.
Yes, it does. There's a lot of battle scars.
A lot of complexities around stuff that I'm just getting my hands wrapped around finally at 42 years old. But I know people that don't ever do it. And, it's okay not to be okay, to say the least. So, we're going to start the first segment of this episode out. This topic is a very vulnerable topic, I think, for those who have ever experienced it. And, we appreciate any openness you guys provide us, because not an easy topic to bring up. Anyways, guys, we know this topic is a very touchy topic, and all comments are welcome and they're open. And this is definitely a safe place to open up if you desire. So, Doug, divorce through the eyes of a child. What do you think, man?
Ooh, man.
Let's go back. Let's just take a journey back in life a little bit, and we don't have to dive into those topics in detail, but let's go back and maybe give some perspective from your point of view of, things like, hey, that wasn't my fault, or, was it emotionally safe? Were there toxic patterns, et cetera? Just roll back, and I'll do the same when you're done, but let's roll back.
For me, I was young. I was, it was about a month before my 5th birthday, and I remember I never felt that anything was my fault. My parents were pretty transparent, even at a young age, of kind of
Okay.
what happened, and, my parents were young. I mean, they were kids when my mom was 15, my dad was 17, got married. My mom was pregnant, and he had, my mom's birthday's in February, my dad's is in June. So my mom had just turned 16. They got married in January, a month before her 16th birthday. But moral of my story is my folks were young. So, I mean, they were still maturing, still learning who they were, but with kids in the picture, and there were just some situational things. I think my parents kind of disconnected. My mom had an affair, and, and from what I understand, there was just some, emotional disconnect between the two, and it ultimately went its separate ways. But, I never felt, as a kid, that anything was my fault. And I think it was largely because my folks were very transparent with my brother, what happened, but.
Well, it's key, man. You're only as good as you know, right? Like
Right.
because
Right.
you can start making that's great. They did that.
Yeah.
Even I mean, I don't know how long that took them to open up like that.
And it was pretty much from the beginning, that they were going their separate ways and had nothing to do with me. And I was young. I didn't really understand the complexities of things, but I do remember, all the way through childhood, of just how difficult it was not having my mom around and not having that relationship and not having that connection, when, I've been fortunate enough in open dialogue with my parents and step parents over the years of just the complexities and the struggles that it wasn't just my brother and I faced, we all faced. Right.
Yeah.
Even when my stepmom came into the picture, how she felt damaged and hurt that my brother and I were hurt because we didn't have this relationship as closely with my mom. And she was really, and I got to tip my hat to her, for being a parental figure in our lives growing up,
Absolutely.
but still there was struggle and hurt and pain of not having my mom in the picture all the time. It was just during vacations or holidays when we could afford a plane ticket to get down and see her, which early on it was rare. I mean, there was.
With all that stuff, was there any toxic patterns that you saw and as a kid?
No. I think there was, a little bit of resentment from both my parents toward them, each other.
Yeah.
But then again, over time, it kind of, they accepted of what had happened and what had unfolded, but no, there wasn't really, a lot of pointing of the blame, or reasons why we should hate one or the other. There wasn't really any toxic pressure in any wake or shape or form. It was, my parents still trying to figure out in their early 20s of, kind of as parents, as careers and things, come together, what their roles and responsibilities were as they were maturing and growing.
Man, they're kids. They're babies.
They were kids. Yeah.
Kids having kids. And unfortunately, that's a decision they made, just like, and we're going to mine too, but that's a decision that they got to honor. It's a decision that they made. It's definitely not, sometimes it's been viewed as an excuse of patterns and problems. And it's the decisions that are made back then you have to honor them, I think you got to really, and you got to take full responsibility for those actions.
And I've had a lot of conversations with them, and I've forgiven, my mom, my dad. I mean, they were young, and I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but they were. And, they did the best they could, and it's, unfortunately there were some circumstances where my mom wasn't as engaged as like my father was, but, I've forgiven her for that.
And you know what, dude, you get a second at bat, and as life grows on, and sorry, just moving the mic, but it's the story doesn't have to end there. And that's the thing there's redemption, and you can actually progress, and your dad, mom can honor that moment in whatever facet it is. And,
but I've been fortunate in that circumstance. Whereas like your story is, a bit different, and there's still some struggle and still,
Yeah.
I know, as we've shared a lot of this, you and I have, and how it hurts and
Yeah, and
where
I
you're
think,
missing
you know,
connection.
you're exactly right, Doug. And to dive into that, man, I grew up in a household that's very similar in age. My mom and dad had my sister and I at a young age. They were babies, not
Mhm.
only age but emotionally,
Mhm.
um, and created a dynamic in a environment that was highly abusive, fight or flight, scary, very very unsafe emotionally,
Mhm.
and to the point of, I remember being scared all the time, just going into bed at night and just being fearful, right? So, um, that alone, I mean, just the complexities and the toxic behaviors that I saw growing up, and I didn't have a big emotional safety net. So I found my safety net was like friends and sports, dude. Like I felt a level of like relief internally when I could go do those, like when I was around friends and when I could,
Acceptance.
yeah, oh my gosh, just safety, like
Mhm.
emotionally, like I didn't have to walk on eggshells all day long. It was okay. I'm welcome here. Um,
Yep.
and that I don't think I ever, onto you, I don't think I ever thought it was my fault. I just was super confused around the authenticity around my parents to be vulnerable enough to own their own stuff and their own shit, and say, listen, here's the mistakes we made. Here's why the decisions we made. We chose this path,
Right.
and own it, wear it, and apologize for it, and just be in it with me instead of, it's none of your business. I'm not going to talk to you about that.
Mhm.
All the things that I've continued to hear in my life, when in turn, the most beautiful thing that those humans could do is just be vulnerable and say, listen, as a mom and dad, here's where we were at. This is, and you be a genuine, and they don't need to apologize for their relationship. It's just, I would just say it's, and I'm starting to heal from my expectation of this, but I've just always really wanted like an authentic ownership around this situation.
Mhm. Yep.
Because to be honest with you, I'm here.
Sincere,
I'm here.
yeah.
Let's just, and that transpired throughout my whole life, to be honest with you. So there's characteristics of my mom and dad split up. So um, through the eyes of a child, I would say it's scary, it's unsafe, it's unknown, it's out of our control. Our basic needs are no longer being met. There's a lot of stuff that happens as a kid that, and now I see some decisions that had to be made, but I also think there's the untold versions that are still kind of a mystery to me, honestly. So it's be like, man, I wish I could uncover that and so that I could honor that space more for my parents. But it's not
Or
my
understand
decision.
it better. Yeah.
I can't control someone else's openness and narrative around what they want to share. And I've started to realize that, like, listen, like all I can worry about is my internal side and what I can control and how I maintain that level of
Right.
strength internally and
Mhm.
feelings that come up during certain instances. And so I think that led, for me, it was as I progressed from a divorced family, a massive fear of abandonment, man, that came with me still shows up.
Mhm.
It still shows up in me. I don't know if you've ever have that feeling. Do you ever have fear of abandonment?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I still struggle with some insecurities. There's
Yeah.
times, even, and I'm fortunate again, my wife and I have a very open dialogue. My wife comes from a broken home too, you know.
Well, Doug, before we're going to take a quick break and we'll die. I wanted to give our
Oh,
team a
gotcha.
break. Yeah, we got a
Yeah.
break. But that
Coffee?
fear of abandonment, yeah, exactly. So that fear of abandonment, sorry guys for cutting Doug off. But for that fear of abandonment, we'll touch more into that topic because I think that's going to hit pretty close to you and I would assume.
Oh yeah.
But we're going to take a quick break, guys. In the interim, if you wouldn't mind, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, X. We just joined. X. And we appreciate you guys joining us on this journey. And again, all topics are welcome, guys. We're here and we're an open book. So we appreciate it. We'll see you guys here just in a minute. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Never in Reverse. Doug, we're gonna stick on that topic of fear of abandonment, man. And one question I have for you is there any pivotal moment that you remember that someone proved to you that not everybody's going to take off? They're not all going to leave you in the dust. Do you remember anything like that?
With my dad and my stepmom, I always felt that was my safe place.
Yeah. That's
Always
awesome.
did, because my dad grew up in a tough dynamic and tough child. It's sort of my mom, both of them, and my dad told us, my brother and I, he goes, I knew when I had you boys that I would always be loved. That
Yeah.
he had this gap in his heart of where he felt loved and wholehearted. And he goes, I knew that the way that I would love you boys, that you would love me forever, and I always felt safe in that space. And then when Rhonda, my stepmom, came into the picture at a young age, and her family dynamic and how tight knit they were,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was in a safe space with that, but there were still those elements that I was missing in that connection with my mom, big time, even though my stepmom, and unfair to her, I didn't open myself up to her enough at a young age.
That's scary, dude. I mean,
Because I'm like, there was just something inside of me. It's like, you're not
yeah,
my mom.
my mom.
And you're not, and she wasn't trying to act or play a part. She came into it just open that
Yeah.
she loved us and she cared for us. And I've had my chance to tell her I was sorry for that years ago, but because my dad and my stepmom cultivated this place and this environment that was a safe place for my brother. And we talked about our feelings, talked about what we were going through. And they knew when I got home, from being with my mom for 2 weeks in the summer, or maybe over Christmas, that I was going to come home emotionally hurt of that disconnect of leaving, or her leaving again, but no, again, I mean, as unfortunate the circumstance that we went through. And I mean, there were some challenging times, some difficult times, don't get me wrong, but I always, at the end of the day, that I knew I was okay in that environment.
Yeah, and I think that that's big, man. That emotional security. Oh, buddy, even as a male, I mean, that's one of the I would say that's the biggest one of the biggest needs of a child is to feel emotionally safe.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean,
we got some basic needs, right? Like,
because kids put their, they put their parents, a pinnacle. They're the top. They want to be who they are.
100%.
Yeah, I want to be like my dad.
Watch them. They start doing what they start. Yeah, they start doing what you're doing, right? Like, and I would say that, I'll go back to my side of the fear of abandonment. So I've had big abandonment issues, to be honest with you, like that stem up still to this day, and I laugh at them now. I hold them a little bit differently. But there was some safety in my stepdad's family. Their side of the family is just a safe. I've always felt safe there. They're just non-judgmental. They're comforting. They're just good human beings. They brought a lot to my life that was beautiful, right? So, but my Aunt Diana was probably she was the first person that I felt, she was going to be there, she had unwavering expectations of someone. She took you as you are, and she just was cool. She was a safe place for that, right? Like, emotionally, even today, I can call her and it's just same concept, man. There's just, she is who she is, and that whole side of that family is the same. So for me, it was because my home was not emotionally safe. It still is not. It's never been. That's decisions of my mom to lead her life in a way that was, and I feel bad for her. She's not probably emotionally safe internally. Because you can't be safe to other people unless you're truly safe yourself. So,
right.
Nothing against her and where she's at in her life, but that just, as you start getting older, and man, how that weight's got to be heavy,
Right.
and everyone's narrative is their own, and they're seeing it from their point of view, but from others' points of view. And I had someone come up to me the other day and go, have you ever asked your spouse if they feel safe with you? I'm like, wow, that's a big question. Like, genuinely safe, because safety comes in emotional, financial,
Right.
spiritual. There's all, I mean, think about
All
that's
facets.
a
Yeah.
that's a pretty big question to ask the people around you. And you know, it made me realize, man, I gotta get extremely safe for my children and my wife to ensure that I don't ever repeat history.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly. Because that's
I
the
don't
last thing you
take
want
that.
to do.
Oh, dude. I mean, I know the feeling. I'm still fighting the fight, right, internally. But you know, it still makes me anxious. Those moments of the unknown of what is to come from an emotional standpoint, good and bad.
Yep.
I mean, in my home, dude, you didn't know what was coming through the door. You had no idea what to expect. All you prayed is, don't be mad. You know, like, don't, you know, there's a lot going on in there. And it was like, man, don't be home.
Yeah.
When I could start driving, I was gone.
Yeah.
Like far, far away. And, you know, looking back now and still to where I'm at, it's unfortunate, but some people don't change and they've never progressed, or they don't learn about themselves, or they always, you know, deter to someone else, and they deflect all their problems and make it about someone else instead of just genuinely listen to someone and saying, listen, I hear you and I am so sorry and I'm going to work at this. And that's the most beautiful thing I think someone could say, but you can't expect that from someone, you know? So in turn,
they gotta
relationship
want it. They got
exactly. So
yeah.
And so, you know, from a safety standpoint today, for me emotionally, is just being, I would say the safest place for me to be is in myself, regardless of how I'm feeling, and figure out like that's my challenge to me all the time, is like, cool, I don't feel safe.
From?
Yeah. Like own that first, man. Don't look for the outside world to make you feel that way. Look inside. Because if you're looking on the outside and you're looking for someone to save you from that, to me, it was like an eye opener. I was like, man, then I'll just be buffering that and layering the complications with hidden falsifications of the reality of myself. So here I am going, hey man, that's on me. I got to raise my hand all the time.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm not perfect, or I feel like something stemmed up, or maybe I made a comment that was
Out of
misled
line
from an emotion, or misled from an emotion that stemmed fear or uncertainty or emotional, you know, I was scared or whatever, you know, there's all those things that we do that comes from the past. But, you know, I look back and I go, you know, just looking back in my life and thinking about, you know, am I upset about having divorced parents? No, I think it made me who I am. And a lot like you is like,
100%.
I don't have to choose. I don't have to go the opposite side of extreme, but I also don't have to choose that path and buffer that's how I was taught. Like a lot of men do, is like, oh, I grew up like that. Well, that's the narrative you want to play. Like like when you're playing cards, right? If you have a bad hand and you can switch cards, you don't just hold on to the same card. You get a new one, right? No. And that's life too, is I think we all got to walk a little bit differently and be a little bit more agile and not so rough around the edges. Even as we get older, as I've gotten older, I'm trying to push myself even more. So yeah, I mean, I think just going back into that, like, you know, as you're playing a deck of cards, like you're dealt a hand, and you don't have to keep that hand.
You don't always have to. I hate that line. That's the hand I was dealt. You know, then
I'm like, imagine if you're playing cards and you're playing blackjack. And
you're not playing one hand. Yeah, okay, deal me the next hand. Now's my turn to make a change.
And you can't be like, I can only change when I hit blackjack.
You wouldn't change anything that you went through in your childhood because it's made you who you are. And I agree with that 100%. And my mom has apologized time and time again. But I said, Mom, you got to understand something. It's also made me who I am. I use my struggles as motivation. You know, and when I played sports, it was my place. When I played football, that was my place to take out my anger in my disappointment and also use it as motivation.
Oh yeah, the grit, man, that grit, underlying grit. If you start to peel back the onion of you and it
gives me the grit, man. Of what?
The grit. It's not. You know, you looked at going back and seeing friendships and all these people you meet in life, and you know how they handle and conduct themselves.
Handle adversity.
Where they get through that, exactly, man. Imagine what this has done from adversity. Like when adversity comes, I welcome it, man. I'm like, come on in.
I've been beating this thing since I was a kid. I've been winning since I was a kid. Bring it.
Next.
Give me the challenge.
Yeah, bring it on next. But I think in the future of this transition and into adulthood with carrying this, I drug on baggage with no wheels for a long time, and I had a lot of silent expectations going into that of I will never do this, I'll never do that. I had this perfect image of a person that I'd be with, and all these strict requirements that were totally opposite of how I was raised, which were seeking perfection in an imperfect world, and it was leaving me even more disappointed, right? But I think that the ability for me to realize it's okay to be imperfect and not have
100%.
because expectations of people, you're always going to be disappointed. They'll never be good enough.
Where's perfect? There's nothing.
They'll never be good enough. Unfortunately, I think just to be authentic with you and I think that there's some struggle that you and I still have some forgiveness or not, there's some unwavering expectations we have of our mothers that sometimes leaves us so disappointed. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's part of some stuff that those hidden expectations that we're seeking from that something that maybe it hasn't really fulfilled the patch yet. That was a desire built into our internal system. But I think we both struggle with that. And we realize that we're asking a lot of someone that's probably not capable or will never seek being capable or understand, or maybe not seek to understand enough to really have empathy for that situation for you and I. Yeah. I don't know what the situation, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't necessarily, I just know that I'm dealing with a person that might not be emotionally capable.
Yeah. And see, for me, I've just kind of accepted, some of the relationship and some of the positions of our relationship and what it is, and seek the good in that, and that's where I've kind of come to peace with it. And that's okay, but, for me, and going back to, my marriage and my kids, when they leave this home and they go out and they start their lives and their relationships, I want them to see the value and the respect that their mom and I have for our relationship. It was my chance to not repeat history, to make a change. Right. And my wife she's in the same alignment with me because she went through a lot of the same challenges with her broken home.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you guys got double whammy, but you know what, man? You can honor it. Like, it doesn't have to be a crutch in your marriage.
It doesn't. But relationships are work. They're work at the end of the day. And, my wife and I were just talking about this the other day. I don't know what it is about our relationship and the way we've seen it grow over the last almost, it's 17 years that we've been married.
I'm sorry, Lindsay.
I know, that poor girl. She's probably going, it's like,
Lindsay, hold on one second. Let me text her real quick. Lindsay,
it's like my stepmom told her when we got married. She goes, guess what? That he comes without a return policy, just so you know. So, but
there's definitely,
no return policy there. But no, I'm fortunate enough for that. And we talk openly about this, because there's still moments and times where I have some insecure struggles, and I think it's
you shared one that with me the other day.
Just recently. And I told her, I said, this happens to me emotionally about every 18 months. And she goes, I know.
Yeah.
And she knows. And I brought it up to her when she got home from a girls trip, and it's just that.
Isn't that scary? That's a weird spot, man. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know, but it's
so dumb.
It's so dumb, but it's just that scab, that scar that's there.
Something pricked it and you went,
Yep.
Yeah, man, Doug. So I think the biggest takeaway from this entire situation is, man, it's okay to be gone through a divorce. It's okay to not be okay in your mid to late age, but it's okay to go face that and get better. I think it's this is a warm welcome to those who might be struggling inside, might not be able to be vulnerable enough to talk about it. But we want to make sure that, this is a safe place to join us on a journey that you might be struggling with some similar things around divorce and having a divorced family. So, it's okay to not be okay. And I think that's important. And Doug, I appreciate you sharing some of your story.
You likewise.
I know there's a lot more to it, and
Yeah.
you know, just for viewers, man, just jump in on yourself, believe in yourself enough. You got this. I think that, you know, sometimes struggle equals success, and it's okay to face that no matter how old you are, man. Even if you're in your 60s, just
It's
do
just
it.
overcoming, and it's overcoming
Yeah.
those situational things that still haunt us from time to time, you know?
So
And finding your
one
supporting
kudos that
cause.
yeah, and I think one kudos that Doug and I we got to give to our spouses, man, is just allowing them to honor us and be part of that story, because it's not an easy thing to be married. I think to people that have gone through some struggles in life, and I think that it takes a lot of courage and
work in
yeah.
progress.
So
Yeah.
kudos to Lindsay and Jess for sticking by us and finding when we're weak that they can be strong, and that we're not just we're not weak by sharing our vulnerabilities with our spouses, and that they're there for us. And I think it's important to honor them and say that thanks for being there.
Yeah, these poor women put up with a lot of crap when it comes to.
Oh, buddy, I'm like a knight in shining armor with my head cut off. Oh God, that's full of shit right there.
Yeah,
no, but guys, thanks for joining us on this episode of episode 30. That's my age, just so you know. I'm 30, never getting any older.
Yeah, Silver Fox
hidden right there, guys. But nope, thanks for joining us on this episode. Like, subscribe on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. The X is now live, and now our website. And we will be having some awesome guests coming up in the near future, guys, and we're excited to start that part of the journey. And it'll no longer be the Doug Cox Roast Show 24/7, but it's gonna, unfortunately, Doug, we're gonna pass the baton.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and see you guys next episode. Take care.
Thanks.